Alright guys, it is Kieran from Red Devil Weekly and we're here to preview United's game against Newcastle United. The first game back after the international break, of course. There have been around 2 weeks of no Premier League football, but it just makes you appreciate it more, I think. You know, we're back and there's some really tasty fixtures all across the Premier League this weekend, but for United fans, there is only one, and that is obviously their trip to St James's Park. And it's a big game, not only, just in general, the history of it. Newcastle United versus Man United is always a massive fixture in the calendar. Down the years, it's been the rivalry between the two clubs. But also this season in particular, with that race for a Champions League spot. Right now, I think between third, fourth and fifth, there's only 3 points. And Newcastle obviously sit 3 points behind Manchester United. We do have a couple. I think we've got a couple of games in hand on Spurs, who are in fourth. So listen, we're close to Newcastle. You know, this on paper usually is a game which you'd expect Manchester United to win, but this season, the way Newcastle have been playing, they are very, very close to us. Very, very close indeed. But anyway, before we get into all that, please do hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well if you are new, and also leave your thoughts in the comment section down below if you do have any predictions, any thoughts at all on this game. Let me know in the comment section down below. If you're watching live as well, please leave your thoughts in the live chat. Cheers, Rich. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it, mate. Hope you're doing well. Don't worry about it. Honestly, don't worry about it. Yeah, don't worry. Honestly, don't worry. I felt more bad, to be honest, but yeah, no, don't worry about it. It's all good. It's all good. Football Twitter is can be a good place, but it can be a bad place at times as well. So yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Doesn't really care. Doesn't really bother me. But anyway, if you want to get more context on that, obviously, please check out Rich's stream. Brilliant stuff over there. Check out the Newcastle preview we did over there. Really enjoyed that. And also make sure to check out the video we did with Jeff, the referee, as well, on Rich's channel. Brilliant stuff over there, as if you want to get clued up on the experience of being a referee and how to get into it. A really insightful conversation, so make sure to check that out on Rich's channel. But we'll talk a little bit about Newcastle and what they've done this season. And, the place I'm going to start is their defensive record. They've got a very, very solid defensive record. I think for a long time they were the best defence in the league this season. They've recruited well. Obviously, Sven Botman coming in, I think, has been a really big influence. Obviously, Dan Burn as well. I think he's played his part. And Nick Pope in goal, who missed out on the Carabao Cup final, and I think was a massive miss for them, has been a brilliant signing. Considering the money that they paid, which was practically peanuts for him in this market. So Pope is been a huge factor in why Newcastle have been so successful. But obviously you look at the likes of Kieran Trippier isn't in there as well. The defence does have that mixture of experience, but also just that nous and know-how. And with someone of like Sven Botman, who's playing the Champions League, they've got that. And obviously Kieran Trippier, who's played in Euros finals and things like that. They've got a lot of experience there, and they obviously gel together very well, and they're a very solid defensive four. And as I said, they're a team that don't give up too many opportunities. I remember the Carabao Cup final, where I think in the first half we kind of had a lot of possession and we created a lot of chances, but ultimately the second half was very different, and we didn't have as much joy. Yes, towards the end of the game, when Newcastle had kind of had to throw men forward, we got a bit more opportunities, but ultimately they're a tough cookie. They're tough to break down, and it's something which we're going to have to get around if we are going to come away from James's Park with 3 points. Going forward, they've also got some good options. I know they've got a few players coming back from injury and suspension. Obviously, Joe Linton coming back off the back of a 2-game suspension, and I think he's someone who has kind of reinvented his role at Newcastle, and is a very important player for them. Someone who actually, a couple of seasons ago, I think a lot of people were thinking, yeah, he's just, for the money they paid, he's just not, he's not a signing that's paid off for them. But actually, Joe Linton is very important to them right now. Obviously, Callum Wilson as well, I think, is going to be coming back from injury, so to have him back is a massive plus. Almiron is still out, to be fair, but I think they do have Allan Maximin back as well. So, their forward options are going to be fairly stacked, and they've got players that can hurt you. It is something which we all know. This season they've definitely overperformed, and we always kind of expected that with the new ownership, they were going to have a lot more funds. They're going to be able to buy, some quality players. Their pull was going to be kind of it's on a different level with the sort of money that they can provide. But ultimately, I don't think anyone really expected Newcastle to be challenging for Champions League at this point. So they've been doing remarkably well, and credit to Eddie Howe and credit to everyone at Newcastle. Obviously, I'm happy that we did end up getting one over them in the Carabao Cup, but this is also a very important game for us because I think for a long period of time, United fans have been thinking, well, we've probably got top four wrapped up. You look at the teams below us, they're not consistent enough, and we're playing good football. But if we lose this game, depending on the other results that happen, yes, we have a few games in hand and things like that. But if we lose this game to Newcastle, and I think if Spurs win their game, we could be sitting outside the top four at the end of this game week. And, that is something which I think some United fans were not expecting whatsoever. I think, following that 7-0 defeat to Liverpool, I think that's really given it a shake-up. I think previous to that, we were looking fairly calm and confident in that third place spot. But now, we've dropped a few points here and there. The draw against Southampton didn't help. And it's going to be an interesting top four race, excuse me. Niall as well, thank you for joining, Niall, appreciate it. Hope you're doing well, my friend, hope you're doing well. And yeah, Matthew said he thinks it's a 1-1. Thanks for joining, Matthew. I probably agree. Actually. I'll give my score prediction. I've probably given it away then, but I'll give my score prediction in just a few minutes. But yeah, Newcastle, we know how dangerous they can be. They're a team as well who, let's not forget, will be looking for vengeance. Obviously already mentioned, we won our first bit of silverware in 6 years, and a 2-0 victory at Wembley. It's got to hurt Newcastle fans. Yes, obviously, a lot of them were happy to be there because they hadn't won a trophy for 50, 60 years. So, for them to actually have an opportunity to be there show that they're going in the right direction. And there's no doubt they are going in the right direction. But ultimately, they're going to want that vengeance. They're going to have that extra motivation. And of course, they're going to have the home crowd, which is always really, it really gets up, especially in these big games. The one thing I will say about Newcastle is against top six sides, they have struggled a little bit this season. They lost to City, lost to Liverpool. So they have struggled a little bit against the top six this season, although they have pulled off some decent results. So it's 50-50 really. How much you can glean from that, I'm not sure. But hopefully we follow in the footsteps that Liverpool did and get a comfortable win at St James's Park, because it'd be huge for us. But Newcastle fans know that this is a huge win for their season. If they can get this win, it really would enhance their confidence and make them feel very, very excited about the prospect of potentially getting into the top four. But we talked a little about Newcastle. I think they're a quality side. I think it's going to be very difficult to break them down. And we're going to have to be on our guard defensively. No doubt about that. Rich says, I'm biased, so I have to go with the Man United win. Yeah, I think that's fair enough. You're not going to get slated for that on this channel. Don't worry about that. I can see what you mean. I don't like predicting losses, to be honest with you. But sometimes you have to be realistic. And, Newcastle are a top side this season, and I think they're only going to get better. Maybe this is our best chance of beating them, because next season they'll bring in the money men, and all of a sudden the Galacticos will start forming, and no one will have a chance. So this will be our best chance, I reckon, of going to St James's Park and winning. But yeah, Manchester United, of course. We've had a lot of Manchester United players out on international duty, and Man United players doing well on international duty. I have to start with Scott McTominay. 4 goals for Scotland in over 2 games, 2 against Spain, to see them in a very, very good position in their knockout group now. I think they're top, 3 points clear in their Euros 2024 qualifying group. So a massive win for them, and Scott McTominay scoring 4 goals, 2 against Spain. 2 really well taken goals, actually, especially in the second goal. It's an unbelievable finish from McTominay. But we know he's got that in him. We know he's got a great strike on him. We've seen it against the likes of Leeds. We've seen it as well against Arsenal. Do people remember that goal he scored against Arsenal where he almost placed it into the top corner? We've seen this before from McTominay, that he does have a strike in him. So hopefully we can see a bit more of that in a red shirt as opposed to a Scotland shirt. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes was doing his thing for Portugal as well. Getting a couple assists, keeping up that record, playing with Ronaldo, of course. And Elanga even scoring for Sweden. It's nice to see him get on the score sheet. Casemiro getting on the score sheet as well for Brazil. So decent little international break for Man United players. And the positive thing is, apart from Sabitzer, no one's really picked up any sort of injury. And the Sabitzer thing is a little bit of a concern. Hopefully Rangnick is just exaggerating it a little bit and it's not really an injury. And hopefully we have him back for the game on Sunday, because I think he'd be a really important part of that midfield. I'll go through my predicted lineup actually right now. I'll give you what I predict going into this game, and I haven't actually put Sabitzer in the midfield role. I've gone with Fred and McTominay, and I just went with that because I wasn't sure about the injury. I know Ten Hag did his press conference today, but I'm just not 100% sure that he's going to start Sabitzer, especially if he picked up a knock. He's usually quite frugal in that way, in terms of giving players minutes who might be coming back from injury. We might see him come off the bench. And actually, the last time he played Newcastle at Wembley, he was brilliant off the bench. He really had a good, 15, 20 minutes. So hopefully we can see the same from him again. And obviously Eriksen as well. There were some rumblings that he's going to be back, but he's not back just yet. Hopefully in the next game we play, I think it's against Brentford, I want to say, our next game. So hopefully by Brentford he can be back playing against his former side, which would be interesting. But we need Eriksen back, man, especially with Casemiro being on this 4-game ban. 2 games after this as well. So yeah, frustrating really, because without Casemiro we've looked pretty poor. Even in that Fulham game, which we ended up winning, without Casemiro, our midfield just constantly got bypassed, and it's a worry that we can't really play without him, and we rely so hard on him. But I'm hoping that we can get it together for this one, and we'll need to, because trust me, St James's Park is not an easy place to go, and if they get on you, it's difficult to get them off. So that's what I've gone with. I've gone with Rashford, Fernandes, and Sancho with Weghorst up front. Obviously no Garnacho. I know Anthony potentially might be starting, and actually I think Anthony recently has done a good job for us. He scored some important goals, but I just feel like he's going to give the nod to Sancho, especially because Sancho didn't go on international duty with England, so he's been fairly well rested. He's got enough rest. He's going to be quite fresh, and I want to see more of Sancho. I hope that Sancho can really start coming of age, because I've seen a bit of disrespect towards Sancho, and to be fair, this season has been up and down for him. Obviously, he had the trouble with his mental health, and he had to go away for a bit, and he came back, thankfully, and was seemingly doing quite well. In the few games after he came back, but he's kind of gone off the boil a little bit, and I'm not sure whether it's because he just doesn't get enough game time or what it is. But Sancho for me will come good as a Manchester United player. I can feel it. And then obviously I've gone De Gea, Shaw, Martinez, Varane, and Wan-Bissaka as our back four, and I think that's our best back four. Let me know if you disagree in the live chat or the comment section down below, of course, but that's what I think it is. Let's see. Andrew's joined us. Thank you for joining, Andrew. Appreciate it. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Hope you're doing well this Friday evening. Mel said, I think without Casemiro it'll be a struggle. I agree. Without Casemiro, we look absolute dog shit. Rich says, any half-decent player would look elite compared to most of Scotland's team. Don't tell Connor or Reece or Doug that, of course, but I kind of agree. No, to be fair to Scotland, they're in a commanding place in the group. I've got to give them the credit. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Keep the comments coming in. Andrew said, if United win this game, it will be very pleasantly surprising. Andrew thinking we're going to falter at the hands of Newcastle. No, it's going to be a very difficult game. Speaking of a team with a similar colours to Newcastle, RB Comps, famous Juventus fan. Thanks for joining, mate. Appreciate it. Hope you're doing well. As always say, make sure to check out this guy's Twitter and YouTube, of course. Brilliant compilations over there, getting better and better each time, and I'm loving the support he's receiving as well. So make sure you do go over and check out his stuff. Great content over there, especially if you love your compilations. Brilliant stuff. It might be. Obviously we're both doing our thing in the Europa League this season. We've got to get past Sevilla, which I'll be honest is giving me PTSD, major PTSD. We've not beaten Sevilla at all in our history, I don't think. So it's given me major PTSD, I can't lie. But ultimately, this team, I feel like, is the most well-equipped to get past Sevilla. And I think Sevilla aren't the same as they were. I'm not sure who Juve got, actually, but it could be a crash course. We could end up meeting Juventus. So, yeah, going to be a tough one. That one. But it'll be a big occasion. And I'm sure there's going to be fireworks. There was the last time we played Juventus, of course, in the group stage of the Champions League. Matthew says, I've noticed we played Brentford on Wednesday as well. The fixtures never stop. Well, yeah, exactly. We've been playing 3 days a week for the last 4 or 5 weeks. So it's something which we have to deal with, and I think the fact that we had that international break has given the players a little bit of a break, although to be fair, most of our players did go away on international duty, which didn't help. But hopefully, for example, the likes of Luke Shaw helpfully got sent off, so he didn't have to play the Ukraine game, which means that he got a bit of rest. So that was a bit of a big brain play from Luke Shaw there. But yeah, it could get messy for us, especially the fact that we're still in the Europa League. We've still got to play FA Cup semi-final and potentially a final as well. So it could get even messier. I reckon we've still got another 20 games to go if you factor in all those potential games. And that's if we continue our runs in these competitions. We might not. Andrew says, Brentford not easy, Newcastle away, not many tougher games in the Premier League. You know what? I have to agree. At this moment in time, going away to Newcastle, especially with their defensive record, is difficult. And if we go away there and win, I think it'll be a big win, not just for the points, but for our season as a whole. This running of games we've got actually isn't too bad. I think we play Spurs and we play Chelsea out of the big six. But if we beat Newcastle away from home, I'll be very confident that we will end up getting top four. Because, it's a big win, it's a big result, and it's one of those results where you feel like, okay, Newcastle are going to struggle to get into the top four. Maybe they get in over Spurs, but I just feel like Newcastle is a very difficult place to come, especially with the added factor that they're going to want vengeance for what happened in the Carabao Cup. Rich says 350k a week would help my mental health. I mean, I would love that salary. I'd absolutely love that salary. Yeah, Luke Shaw, new contract. I'm happy with that. I'm very happy with that. I think, he's been one of our best defenders this year. I think he's had a decent year. I think recently he looked like he needed a rest, and I'm happy that he did get that rest after not featuring in the Ukraine game. He looked like he was a little bit leggy and that he was getting a bit fatigued, but I really feel like he is 100% our best fullback at the club right now. And one thing I think he's developed is his crossing. I mean, his crossing, especially from free kicks, is actually so top tier. The amount of chances that he's created when he's looking to put a ball in from that left-hand side. And it's a really big weapon to have. Honestly, it's a very, very good weapon to have. Andrew says, if we win, yeah, top four look very probable. Hopefully we get the points. But I'm going to give you my score prediction, then we will probably leave it there for tonight. I'm sure you guys have got big plans on this Friday night, so I don't want to keep you too long. But I'm going to go with... well, I know a couple of you went with a 1-1 draw, and I think that's kind of the consensus. I'm going to go for I'm going to go for a 2-2. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. And I think, a win here, as we talked about, would be huge for us. I just feel like, Newcastle are the sort of side that no matter what happens, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a 3-4, 5-0 cakewalk. This is going to be a scrappy game, a game which the big players are going to have to step up. Casemiro's not in the side. We're going to find it tricky, but we're going to have to look towards players like Rashford to bail us out. Fernandes is going to step up, have a good game. And the midfield, whoever plays, whether it's McTominay and Fred, whether it's Fred and Sabitzer, they've got to step up big time. And defensively, Newcastle are very solid. It's going to be difficult to break them down. They're going to have a plan for the likes of Rashford, I'm sure. So, it'll be interesting. Very, very interesting. I'm sure for the neutral, I think it's going to be a blockbuster occasion. Obviously, as I said, Newcastle versus Man United is always a huge game in the Premier League footballing calendar. The history between the two clubs, of course, is there. So it's a big game between two of the biggest clubs in England, and I think it'll be a good spectacle. But I'm hoping that we come out on top. I'm not sure, though. Honestly, I can't say I'm confident going into this game. I really can't. Without Casemiro, I think it's going to be an uphill battle. But I'm hoping that I'm wrong. I'm hoping we get the 3 points, and it'd be a huge 3 points to us. Niall goes for 3-2. I'm liking it. I'll take that all day long, Niall, honestly. 2-1 win for Rich. Bit of a theme, a kind of narrow victory for United. Andrew says his bet is 3-0 Newcastle. That would be a very bad day at the office, but if Newcastle get on top of us, the home crowd gets on top of us, it's going to be an interesting 90 minutes, I'll tell you that. Noel says 0-0, sadly, just imagining it's a 0-0. I mean, a point away at Newcastle would be a frustrating result, but it wouldn't necessarily be the end of the world, I think. If we win, I'll lick Erik Ten Hag's boots. Yeah, I'm sure he'll love that. And he also says, Fred struggles against the press. If he does Sunday, we'll be in trouble. Yeah, I think midfield-wise, without Casemiro, whoever we played this season, we've looked poor. So, I'll be honest, I wouldn't prepare yourselves for any sort of easy game where we have a lot of control. I think it's going to be a scrappy game where whoever takes their chances wins. And I know that sounds really simple and a bit stupid, but that's how it is. I don't think any one team is going to have the control. I think it's going to be back and forth, end to end, and whoever puts the ball in the back of the net, whoever is clinical, will end up winning the game. But let me know your thoughts on the game in the comment section down below. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate it. If you're new around here, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well if you did enjoy the content and want to see more of it. But until next time, thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Have a good rest of your Friday evening and, of course, your weekend. And I'll see you guys in a bit. Cheers.